Welcome back to the Love Truth Leadership Podcast. Today we continue our deep dive into the profound social differences between the U.S. and Thailand. Our very own Larry is calling from Thailand, ready to share his ongoing journey and the vibrant contrast he has observed in the community, connection, and leadership. Immerse yourself as Larry brings to life the lessons learned from the rich Thai way of life, offering insights into how we can all lead with love in a diverse world.
Hi, I'm Nick.
Hi, I'm Larry.
And we're joining Larry again in Thailand. How are you guys doing this morning? For me, it's morning. It is 10 p.m. in Thailand for you, Larry, huh?
Yeah.
Quite a time difference there, but thank you for making the time to continue doing this with us. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, my pleasure. It's great. It runs around about in the mid 90s here during the day and cools off in maybe the low 80s, high 70s at nighttime. So a big contrast from the Rocky Mountain weather I hear you guys are having.
Yeah, we are dealing with like 9 degrees this morning, and it just got done snowing. So the weather is waiting for you to come back.
I don't wear a coat or anything over here. You wear shorts and flip flops and a t-shirt. It's pretty warm.
Yeah, I feel like going on a trip during the wintertime would be hard for me to pack because I'm like, all right, cool, I need to bring a coat. I'm like, wait, no, I don't. You know, it's gonna be 90 degrees there, and yeah, that would be.
So yeah, right now is more of the dry season. It's not the rainy season. We've only seen a little bit of rain. Kind of, you wouldn't think so because it's so green, but they tell me that during the winter rainy season, there's pretty good downpour. So, and we're on the island of Phuket, which is south of the big mainland where Bangkok is. So, and Phuket is primarily where more tourists come. So it caters to the tourist people. And there's some wonderful scenery. They just built a skywalk, which is all out of glass, way over high up off the ground. And so that's kind of interesting thing. They just barely completed that. So people who have fear of heights, it might make them a little quizzy.
You know, because I experience the fear of heights, and I don't think it's really the fear of the height. I think it's the fear of the fall for me. It's like, you know, what if I'm gonna fall? That's what goes through my head whenever I'm on a high place. I get busted all the time at work because I'm, 6'5", and they'll bust out the ladder for me to get up on something. I'm like, how about you get up on the ladder? But
well, I guess we won't take you climbing up the El Capitan route in Yosemite.
Not El Capitan, maybe something smaller to start with. But I feel like if I'm secure in the ropes that are holding me up, we'll be okay. So what have you been experiencing this past week, Larry, since we last talked?
Well, we went more in the rural area and kind of away from the general public, out in the, I don't know, what do you call the villages, so to speak. And it's different culture out there. Some of these homes look like there's 4 walls, and I'm not sure there's running water in there, plumbing. I'm not even sure. Some may have it, some don't. And electricity may be iffy on some too.
Yeah.
but but they're all so kind to each other. I don't think they compare whether they have something or not like we do in America. They are all kind of pretty humble and some circumstances, and they just think a lot of their family. So, so when I think I told you this last episode, every time they meet you, they say a greeting. It's called Swati Krop. At least that's what the male says. The female says it a little differently. And they hold their hands together and bow like you're praying a little bit. And that's the way kind of show respect and honor. And they do that to everybody. Our taxi guy had a flat tire this last week, and this was interesting. And this never happened on his vehicle before. He was driving a Toyota, and it was the front tire on a 4Runner, and he gets out and he ran over some nail or something. At least that's what it looked like. So he goes into this shop or somewhere. I don't know what it was. He was gone for about 5-10 minutes. All of a sudden, six guys come out. It was like a pit crew. One guy brought a jack, another guy brought some tools, and boy, they had it up, and they took the wheel off the back of the 4Runner and lowered it, which I didn't know how to do. I was in the process of YouTubing because he didn't know how to do it either. And they had that whole thing fixed in 10 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then they didn't ask any money. And I asked, is this typical? He says, oh, yeah. Everybody just helps everybody. But it was just so interesting. They came out and said, okay, let's just get this all done. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and then it's just, I told him that. I said, it's amazing. And he's talking to me in broken English, and he goes, it's like, well, don't they do the same way in the U.S.? I said, well, maybe. Not the way I just saw it.
No, not at all.
And the other thing I noticed when I was in church today, one guy pointed out, he says, he was an American, and he said, there's no road rage down there. I mean, the traffic is a little congested some part, but there's no honking or get out of my way or someone, wheeling down the window and yelling. They just don't have that. Yeah. They don't yell or scream, and they're just so interesting enough. They're pretty cordial about the traffic, even the heavy stuff. And I don't get the impression that anybody's trying to speed to get past someone. I mean, there's motorcycles, but they have their own lane. So, and of course, they drive on the opposite side, on the left side instead of on our right side. I think it must have been because of British must have had some influence on that years ago. But yeah, it's just a different culture of getting along, and you can just see that by their attitude towards each other. Very helpful. And I was telling you a bit before about tips. Americans are about the only ones that leave tips at any places, and we had this little bike that took us. I mean, this boat guy was taking us kind of It wasn't the main way they take tourists. It was behind the jungle area. He took us in a different way to a particular island called the James Bond Island. They did a scene there, and so now they just coined it the James Bond Island. And when we were through, I gave him what it amounted to about $6 of our money, and boy, he was just totally taken back. He was so happy. And that meant the difference of having a meal the next day or not. I don't know, but he was so grateful for it. So some of these people really appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that's really taken advantage of in our culture is the fact. Well, and then again, it's something that, a lot of our restaurants and stuff, breed into us as Americans because, as a restaurant worker, you're making what I don't know the exact wage, but it's a lot lower than minimum wage. So you're relying upon your tips. And so here it's something that it's like not even a second thought for us to do is to tip people.
Yeah, it's just a customary. This in our culture, we do it. We're here. So we went to a restaurant this morning for breakfast where the local people go. This isn't where the tourists go. And so they're not expecting any tip. That's beyond what they normally, because they don't get them. And Because in this culture, Thai people don't tip other people. Most Asians don't tip people. That's just typical the way they are. When I lived in Taiwan 50 years ago, if I left a tip, the owner would come after me and say, "You overpaid me." That's how foreign it was to him. But we got a really good meal. I can't remember what I got, fried rice or something. And I think the cost was the cost was $3.
Oh wow.
It was a complete meal for $3.
That's
So
that's unheard of. You almost make me want to move. But
so that's $3 American. And I understand Vietnam is very similar. That's your dollar goes a long ways. They say $100 a day, you live like a king. That includes servants and everything in Vietnam. I don't know about Thailand, but I'm sure if you lived in a more rural area, my driver said an average house costs about 30,000 American dollars. Not a apartment,
yeah,
small apartment,
that's a tenth of
maybe 800.
what my house is worth. So
I said, "What if you paid 100,000?" He said, "That would be a very nice house."
yeah, that's pretty cool.
I said, "Really?" He goes, "Oh yeah." So now you kind of have an idea of. Most people use public transportation or bikes or motorcycles. A lot of motorcycles. Well, they're more like scooters. You know what I'm talking about? They're
Yeah.
I don't know if scooter's the right word. And they pay around $2,500 for those. But that's probably what the average transportation is. So
you got to
give
visit
you an idea of what. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you got to visit some rural areas. What's the common disposition of people living in those areas?
Very friendly. They're very nice. Very, very cordial. Oh yeah, I mean, can't speak too much English.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough, but you can tell they don't have a lot, so
And that doesn't
if
have a
it's
whole
like
lot
most,
of effect on their outlook. It doesn't seem like.
no, they're still very positive, very, very nice. I think when you're in that situation, you're focused, I think, just on relationships. Because materialism, it doesn't seem to be preoccupied in their mind. It's trying to just put food on the table, and and I don't know if it's true, but a lot of third world countries, over 50% of all their disposable income goes towards food. 50 to 70%. Where in America, it's like under 15% or whatever goes towards our food side, because most of it goes to our house payments, cars, and all the other stuff. So when you get in these other countries, the bulk of their disposal, their money goes towards just essentially staying alive and buying food. So their markets are a little different.
Yeah.
Where they buy stuff and their primary staple, a little bit of haggling. Primary staple is rice.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, and that's true in most Asian countries, I'd say over half their diet is rice. So, and then you add some veggies on top of that and a little bit of meat. So that's pretty much their diet. Three times a day. Sometimes only 2 times a day, depends where you're at.
Yeah.
And tea. Tea is probably the predominant drink as a general, and coffee. Tea and coffee. But I think you said they export a lot of rice.
Yeah, they're like the one of the largest leading rice exporters for sure. According to the research that I was doing.
So yeah, we visited a cashew place. It exports a lot of cashews, and that is a labor-intensive thing, because they have to roast them. Otherwise, if they eat it raw, it gets you really sick.
Huh.
But so yeah, we see a lot of rubber trees here.
Yeah, that was another major export that I was reading about is that they, as far as agricultural goes, they do a lot of rubber farming.
Right.
And one of the main staples of food is definitely fish over there.
Yeah, fish. And it's pretty fresh. Sometimes there's restaurants, some of them just serve pretty fresh fish they catch in the morning. So, and we saw there's a lot of mango, papaya, watermelon,
bananas.
That's bananas. Not so much bananas. There's some. I think that comes from the northern country down here. I didn't see any banana fields.
Okay.
A lot of coconut fields and pineapple. Probably saw the most coconut and rubber is what we saw the most. And so yeah, and main fruit they serve in the morning is mango, papaya, and watermelon. That's the three main majors. Not so much bananas. We saw some, but not as much as the other three.
Yeah.
And that's what their diet probably consists of too.
So I was also reading that they're as far as they're not as technologically advanced as far as it goes with their agriculture use as well. They do use some pesticides, which can add a little bit to the rural pollution and stuff like that. But as far as it goes, they use a lot of manual labor for their agricultural, and I look at that as a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that is.
So
it is a lot of hard work.
Being able to have that hard work and still have like a very community driven disposition, and here in the US, the hard work is usually done by immigrant employees and stuff like that, and we don't have the pay scale that goes along with that work either, right? So
right,
that being said, it's one of those things where whenever in Thailand they are doing all this hard work and still have a very friendly disposition, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what in their life is going so right where they can still continue to be happy while doing what we consider in America a lower job, right? Something that's
probably because they don't know any different,
right? Yeah. So have you
it's a matter of expectations.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Have you noticed it, Larry? Anyone? Because this really is a big quandary for me. Anyone that is on their phone, like any.
Actually, most of the people on the phone are the tourists.
Okay. Yeah. That's yeah.
We went into a really high-end mall. Like it really high-end, like you would see in New York or LA or downtown Cherry Creek Mall. But yeah, they had one of those that catered to the very well affluent. But yeah, for the most part, most people all have cell phones, but it's the tourists who seem to be more attached to it than I saw the other. Now, are they attached to social media that much? I don't know. I haven't been around the people in the rural area to know whether but I don't think they're on their phone. They're trying to make a living. They don't have time to mess around with their phone.
Yeah. That video you sent me where, here in the United States, we grow up with addiction now to a device, and it doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of that out there.
No, not as much. But I'm sure it does impact somehow, but nothing like probably we see in the U.S.
Nobody just walking around head down watching their Instagram or reels or anything, that kind of stuff. TikTok.
No. But if you go into the higher end resorts, that you'll definitely see more of it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But that's being catered by foreigners for the most
Western
part.
culture is
Western.
yeah.
Western culture for sure.
Yeah. Which
anyway, it was Chinese New Year's yesterday and today, so a lot of Chinese have come down here, and so a lot of decorations have been put up for that.
Okay.
And some Chinese lanterns lit off this evening. They go up in the sky. So that's kind of cool. And people are somewhat surprised when I speak to them in Chinese. So,
yeah, for those of you who don't know, Larry is are you fluent, Larry, or?
Oh no, it's probably like I was real fluent 50 years ago. I used to read and write it, but you don't use it a lot. But I can get around enough to impress the Chinese people.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I've noticed a lot of whenever like if you're a foreigner in America and you speak English, we look at it as not a big deal. But if you're a foreigner in like especially an Eastern country, and you can speak the language, as they make that a really, really big deal. Whenever you can speak their language, it's something that they're very awed by.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple Americans today that can speak very fluent Thai, and that really, they're pretty impressed when that happens.
That's pretty cool.
So, unfortunately, I can't speak Thai, but I mean, read a few words like thank you and stuff, and how are you, but this week there's a lot more Chinese probably than normal because of the holiday. So the hotels are all setting up the Chinese decorations for the New Year's. So that's their biggest holiday in China is New Year's. And then what they do is they have red envelopes with money and they give those to the kids.
Yeah.
Kind of a tradition they do. Yeah. So
is there like influence, like as far as that goes? I mean, the Thai are like very accepting of that tradition, even though it's probably not something that they do.
No, yeah, they're accepting it, but it's mainly the Chinese. They don't celebrate it anywhere near the way the Chinese do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big holiday for them. So the bulk of the religion down here is Buddhism is probably number one.
Yeah.
Then probably Muslim is 2, and then Christianity is 3.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's Buddhist. We see a lot of Buddhist temples. And that seems to be the major religion. So
yeah, they're called the Wat, right?
What do they call it?
WAT is how it's spelled, I think. They have a big role to play as far as like community centers for sure, where people just go to gather, and that's where they hold a lot of their religious ceremonies, and a lot of the education, especially in rural areas, are held at the temples. And then, of course, they all gather at the temples for a lot of social gatherings as well, according to the research that I was doing.
Yeah, so they've got quite a few, I don't know what you call them, shrines. If that's the word, places where they have the Buddha and where they worship. You usually have incense, sometimes food there too. So food is an offering, not food is to eat. So yeah, that's a unique thing about their culture. But overall, Thai people are great people, like many of the Asian people. But I've never been in Thailand. This is the first. So, but I've been in Japan and China and those people, and they're the same way. In Korean, they're all very nice people.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of negative influence. It doesn't seem like there's a lot more of a positive community role and something. It seems like that's what you're going to experience. It's something a little bit more connected culture.
More connected, right? I think these communities, they know everybody better. Where in the United States, we're like, if we may know two neighbors down and that's it.
I don't even,
You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know my neighbors. Like,
So,
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I mean, growing up as a kid, especially in a rural area, I grew up in a town that had 161 people. You knew everybody, and now the town that I live in, I couldn't even tell you my two closest neighbors. I couldn't even tell you their names. I've um, never met them. It's unfortunate, anytime that you guys that we're outside to even see each other, it's like you're more or less trying to avoid each other, which is,
yeah.
I find is very unfortunate. What about you, Larry? Do you know your neighbors?
Yeah, we know our neighbors.
Okay.
The guy on our left, he's a Russian guy, and his girlfriend and his dad used to live there, but he passed away about a year ago. And then another one's across the street and up the street a little bit too. And the guy behind us, we know him real well, and so, but we made more of an effort to kind of go,
yeah,
see them.
and
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it's where it used to be. You move into a place, you can go greet your neighbors. See, I own the house I live in, but the neighbors behind, because I live on a corner, so the neighbors behind me is a rental, and the neighbors to the other side again, it's another rental, and so the neighbors that I would know, I don't, because they're gone before you can develop a relationship, and like I said, anytime you catch them outside, it's like a friendly wave, and then nothing like that. I used to know the neighbors behind me quite well, actually. I used to go, and they would have backyard fire stuff, but then they moved. But yeah, I think here I think it's more common to not know your neighbors than it is to know them, almost.
Mm.
But so, anything else that you want to share that you've got to experience that you would like to reflect on and comparing the cultures between Thailand and the United States?
Well, I may have mentioned this before. I just reflect on gratitude. I think when you see different cultures, it gives you a better appreciation for some of the benefits we have in America.
Yeah.
Especially when you ask people about different things in their view of life. There's been a lot of Russians come down here, primarily because they are escaping Russia, and Thailand is very friendly. They'll grant a visa, and they're very appreciative they can move down here and not be subject to some problems as in Russia is having. So, just when you look in the rural areas and you think these people are really scrounging to stay alive, I think we're very blessed to be in America for what we have, and sometimes I think people take it for granted.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all take it for granted. It's something that we're used to as we're growing up, and we don't get the chance to experience other cultures and what other people live in, and or try to educate ourselves about what other people live in and have to deal with on a day-to-day. It's something that we're very blind to, as far as the fact that we have it really well, and where our dollar is a little bit harder to stretch now, I guess. But in the same hand, a lot of us aren't working for our food, and a lot of us aren't, we're working for it, but we're not, what I mean in that sense is we're not going out and farming it ourselves. And we have the luxury to be able to go out and eat quite regularly, and transportation, the fact that, everybody has, the majority of us have access to like internet and running water and plumbing and, a bunch of these things that we take for granted. And just getting to live in the experience of maybe going to or just researching what other countries have to deal with is a big thing, and can help our understanding quite a bit as far as how fortunate we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody should go visit a third world country, get a big paradigm shift about the way things are.
Yeah. No joke.
So,
or at least just, be curious about it. Research it or something.
Study it.
If you don't have the availability to go to a third world country or somewhere where, they have a little bit, they're not as fortunate as we are, try to figure it out on your own, how lucky you are to live in a country that a lot of the things that we get are pretty much handed to us, and how fortunate we are.
So, yeah. So I would just say, the listeners out there, try to extend a friendly hand to get to know your neighbors, be,
pay it forward.
Focus on gratitude, pay it forward, help others, and be grateful.
Heck yeah.
In fact, the best way to be grateful is pay it forward.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is very, very true. So on that note, we're going to sign off, and I'm looking forward to having you back for next week, sir. I'm missing you.
Yeah, same here.
All right, my man. Well, I'm Nick.
I'm Larry.
And this is LTL. Thank you guys for listening.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Love Truth Leadership Podcast. Larry's tales from Thailand have set the stage for our next discussion, the impact of social media on mental health. Join us as we delve into how digital connections influence our well-being and what it means for leadership in the digital age. Insightful conversations and expert insights await. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to exploring this vital topic with you next time. Lead with love and truth, and see you in the next episode.